You piqued my interest yesterday, and I told Justin, I'm yelling while you're talking. I'm going, stop the tape! Stop the tape! And he goes, I can't stop it. It's Parrott Show. I said, I know. I want to hear it again. Okay, you said you don't have any facts to back this up. I'm okay with that. But someone has told you something of an event that is so profound. And I actually have a guy who is, you might even know him if I gave you his name. He's kind of still involved in special ops. He does special missions and stuff. He's my inside guy, and he gives me intel all the time. He actually had whispered something about this to me, and that this was going, that this might take place. And that's this. Apparently, there is an attempt by the warmongers of the world. They want to send the Israeli military in, backed by the armed might, the intercontinental ballistic might of the United States. And apparently this lunatic, this genocidal lunatic called Benjamin Netanyahu, thinks that he can engage in a ground war with the Persians. And my wife asked me this morning, she goes, when is all this going to end? 400 some odd thousand children, refugees in Lebanon. When is all this going to end? I said, I guess when Bibi is done killing everyone that's not him in the Mideast. But you said something on your program that the U.S. military refused.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that there is some adult leadership in the last trusted institution in the United States of America. You know, we don't trust our media, we don't trust our Congress, we don't trust our police anymore, but we still trust our military. And I'm just stringing together some events, KingDude, so work with me on this. The first one, you got to go back at least 2 months to when Starmer comes to America, and he's trying to negotiate to get some long-range missiles into the hands of Zelensky. Because he wants Zelensky, Starmer does, he wants Zelensky launching missiles into Moscow from Kyiv, okay? So Starmer comes to the United States ostensibly to close the deal, to sign the paperwork, to take the photos, and he leaves empty-handed, not because of the administration, and we're never told why. So there's some unnamed actor in the government that says we're not going to have World War III. We are not going to do that. So I started thinking that it might have been the military. Now you fast forward to this week. The Pentagon has completely leaked. They put it out on Telegram. The war plans that Netanyahu has to invade Persia, as you said, and this of course stymies their plan. And now they have to go back to the drawing board because they've lost the element of surprise. I can't help but think to myself that somebody at the Pentagon is saying, you know what? Civilian leadership of the military works as long as there's legitimate civilians at the helm. But right now, Biden is a zombie, and we don't even know if he was elected, so we're just going to have to take over.
I think this is one of the most profound things that we have heard this year. And I also think that it helps to explain why John Kirby is out there yesterday going like, I can't tell you how this got out, but I can tell you that it got out. And then, right. Okay, so I saw Marco Rubio, Senator Tom Cotton, and Senator Rick Scott, all three war hawks, all three way too far over the top, neocon or neoconish on Fox News yesterday afternoon. And the first they were asked about this, and the first thing out of Rubio's mouth was, well, first of all, this is treason. This is treason against the United States. We're going to find out who did this, and they're going to be treated as a traitor. And I'm going like, they just foiled World War III, and you're calling them a traitor? This is, and then the three of them go on. I'm like, all right, you're almost intimating. I'm almost hearing here that there's some kind of a lust here for the United States. Have you seen our military lately, Marco? For the United States to be involved in a land war in Asia? The Princess Bride knew this in 1988. Remember the line? What the Sicilian says, one of the three great mistakes is first is never get in a land war in Asia. Well, yeah. Even the Sicilian knew that that's a stupid idea. But apparently there were politicians that wanted this and probably still want it. You know, Lindsey Graham talking about first thing we're going to do is go after their refineries. I mean, this is an act of injustice that is so profound. you'll starve people. You won't starve any Ayatollahs. They won't go without anything, but you will starve actual Iranians. And when I heard you talking about this yesterday, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to say a little Hail Mary here, and I'm going to pray that there are people left in the U.S. military that went like, no, you're not, we're not doing that. We're not going to let you do it because we're not going to participate. That's kind of where you were coming from.
It's got to be. I mean, there's some counterforce somewhere in the deep state that is working against World War III. And if you were to just, by process of elimination, you have to conclude that it is the military. And we have a long history in the United States government of never finding leakers. I mean, just go back to who leaked Roe v. Wade. Remember, they were going to investigate that.
Never.
That was treason. No one's ever going to be found. Same here. I think no one's ever going to say, oh, it was a 3-star general that leaked this thing, and he's going to be tried for treason. That would never happen. And so, I mean, look. Holding people accountable in the military. If I lost my rifle in Afghanistan as a captain or a lieutenant or even as a major, I would be brought up on charges. These flag officers who oversaw the withdrawal in Afghanistan left billions of dollars of perfectly good military equipment there that fell into the hands of the Taliban. After 20 years, we replaced the Taliban with the Taliban in Afghanistan. Nobody was held accountable. Everybody was promoted, and everything is totally fine. So nobody's going to be held accountable. This whole treason bluster thing by the neo chickens is it's just nothing. But I got to tell you, the only reason why I think that it is possible that any of these flag officers would have woken up by now, because I don't know if I've mentioned this. At every single level of promotion, every officer in the United States military is brainwashed into reminded of their sacred duty to listen to civilian leadership.
That's right.
What makes the American military special? Civilian control of the leadership. Civilian control of the military. Civilian control of the military is drilled into your head as a captain, as a major, as a colonel, and as a general. At every level, you go to command and Special Staff College, you go to Army War College, wherever you go, you get an advanced degree in American politics that basically says the civilians are in charge. Well, that's all well and good. And if you're a general officer and you've spent 35 years of your life defending this country and you believe in civilian control of the military, and then you see them stealing an election, and then you see them inciting World War III, you might start to think, okay, you know what? As long as I have a duty to follow the civilians, but the civilians have a duty to be responsible. And to the extent that they're illegitimate or irresponsible, I don't got to follow them anymore.
Yeah, and Mike Parrott, host of Parrott Talk on our Dude Maker hotline here with us. We're talking about the Parrott Talk show yesterday, which you can get as a podcast download at CRUSADEchannel.com if you're a Founders Pass member. Not a member, there's a link right there on the site that will take you to the sign-up page. You should join today. The other thing that I heard you say, and you ran out of time, so I want to give you a chance to elaborate a little bit on this. Is it your impression then that if this is the course of action that occurred here, that the same people in the military are going like, hey, Harris, hey, Biden, stop saying you're going to use us. Stop saying Trump's going to call us out and that we're going to work to go start seizing people and throw them into internment camps so that people will be scared and go vote for the Dems or for Harris or whatever, because we're not going to let that happen. Is that what you meant by that?
Well, I think there is there's definitely a conjecturable level of evidence to suggest that the military is finally starting to flex on the Biden-Harris regime and say, look, you're not going to steal this election. You're not going to stuff the ballots, and if you do, we won't let it happen. Enough is enough. You got to know when to say when. So, yes, the military is pretty good at being used as political pawns by both sides, and they're pretty good at sitting there during State of the Union addresses and not clapping and not showing emotion when this president or that president either uses or demoralizes the military, depending on who's in the office. But I tell you, Mike, I think that there is a glimmer of hope that says that the military is saying, you bastards are not going to start World War III. You're not going to steal an election. We'll listen to you when you're legitimate, but right now you got to prove your legitimacy at the ballot box.
Okay, there's a couple of things that I understand, and I know you got to get to your real gig, but one thought occurs to me: civilian leadership of the military, and when they come into conflict, you know that when they were discussing dropping the atom bomb. You know, the neocons and the war hawks always like to say, oh, it just prevented the deaths of 800,000 Americans. First of all, we couldn't have drafted 800,000 and gotten them to the island of Japan. Just foolhardy, stupid things to say. Second of all, we know. I grew up in Norfolk, in Virginia Beach, Virginia, in the Tidewater area. It's a military town. I can tell you, when I was a child, you know, one of our field trips was to the Douglas MacArthur Memorial. I've always been a huge hero of Doug MacArthur, of General MacArthur. You know, and Pat Buchanan wrote a book about this. The Russians knew that this happened because it's in the Venona papers. MacArthur almost resigned. He told Truman, like, well, you're going to do what? No, you can't do that. Nimitz told Truman, don't drop the bomb. Do not do this. You're going to set the most horrible precedent in history here. So you had the civilian leadership going like, no, we're going to nuke the Japs. You actually had the military brass going like hell you are. So we know through history that ultimately, you know, Truman got his way and found enough military people to climb aboard the Enola Gay and then drop the Little Big Man and then Fat Boy, the bombs here. So you know, there's an example right there, the military trying to stop something from happening and the civilian authority actually winning, getting its way, unfortunately. Well, you know what? I hope you're right, brother. I hope you're right. I really do. Because as I say often, I don't like thinking that the United States Navy, the Office of Naval Intelligence, was actually capable of ordering Roscoe White or whoever to put a bullet in John Fitzgerald Kennedy's head. I don't like that thought. I don't want to live in a country where the military or the intelligence agencies are actually capable of doing this. But someone did give the order, and it was carried out. I don't know who. It's possible that it was that it was Oswald. I think it's unlikely here. None of us should, you conspiracy people. You need to watch what you say. We don't want to. Mike Parrott enlisted into the United States Marine Corps because I thought it was a heroic, patriotic thing to do. You didn't enlist so you could participate in civilian assassinations of the political class, did you?
That's right. No, I mean you have the greatest and the highest aspirations when you put your hand up and you say that you will defend the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic, but you don't ever put your hand up and say, I want to join the deep state, I want to accrue power, I want to work in the shadows, and I want to overthrow my own government. You never wanted that.
And citizens, you shouldn't want this to be true either. Now, I'm not saying that it's not. Please don't misunderstand. I'm saying you should not desire it to be so, okay? The great desideratum in Latin of an American citizen is to actually live in the land of the free and the mobile home of the brave. That's the great desideratum, not to live in the land where Kennedy was assassinated. All right, we're out of time. I got to go. Great show yesterday. Keep it up, brother. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you soon.
You're very welcome. Mike Parrott there, everybody, for you from the CRUSADE Radio Network. That segment yesterday was so powerful, and I could tell his emotions and his passions were all in. I'm like, okay, that's the 13-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps I hear talking here.